7 Things You May Not Know About Bibliomania. With the latest launch of the collection Tidying Up with Marie Kondo on Netflix, there was a tinge of backlash regarding her remarks approximately conserving onto too many books. She recommends most effective, having 30 at a time. Of course, memes regarded overnight protecting book hoarding with stunning ferocity. This compulsive craving to collect and hoard books is referred to as bibliomania. Some of the symptoms of this pathological hoarding can also entail maintaining onto books which have no price or are in any other case useless and amassing countless copies of the same specific book. Perhaps the maximum telling behavioral trait is the impulsive, non-stop acquisition of books that the collector has no practical intention to sit down and read. It's essential to now not confuse bibliomania, the obsessive amassing of books, with bibliophilia, which is sincerely the love of books. There's a massive difference between a bookworm and a bibliomaniac. Dr. Martin Sander made the difference this way: the bibliophile is the grasp of his books, the bibliomaniac their slave. If one is not able to temper this addiction, the results can be devastating. The infamous book bandit. Stephen Blumberg, additionally known as the book bandit, changed into a man from Iowa who collected over 23,600 books. Unfortunately, the books he amassed did now not belong to him. They belonged to 327 libraries and museums across 45 states, 2 provinces in Canada, and the District of Columbia. Blumberg was a restless nomad who turned into constantly on the move, however he never sold his books. He just kept accumulating greater and greater. He became an expert at averting detection. He'd wiggle through ventilation ducts in ceilings and shimmy up and down dumbwaiters. One time, he became nearly crushed via a service elevator whilst he turned into attempting to climb the elevator shaft. At the closing minute, he became capable of squeeze into an inspection bay indention within the wall. In 1990, Blumberg was caught. A pal became him over to the Justice Department for a $56,000 reward. The FBI had to use a 12-meter (40 ft) tractor trailer to move Blumberg's stash of literature, all 19 heaps of it, to catalog for inventory. Together, the books have been worth $5.3 million. During his trial, a forensic psychiatrist, Dr. William S. Logan, defined to the court that Blumberg suffered from bibliomania that covered schizophrenic delusions. And sure enough, after 4.5 years in the back of bars, Blumberg turned into let out and right away continued to develop his epic ebook series once more. Not a recognized disorder. Bibliomania is well known, and it has been located and discussed for almost centuries, but the American Psychiatric Association refuses to understand it as a psychological ailment of their Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Even the Oxford University Press defines bibliomania as honestly a passionate enthusiasm. In psychology, bibliomania is understood and stated as an underlying symptom of an obsessive-compulsive sickness. The act of hoarding countless piles of books has been shown to have a negative impact on one's health and interpersonal relationships, while the impulsive craving to buy and hoard books overwhelms every different desire. Medical professionals prescribe similar capsules which might be recommended for compulsive issues in general, however pills are usually no longer effective sufficient on their own. Cognitive behavioral therapy is the most beneficial intervention to therapy bibliomania entirely. It includes psychotherapies designed for the bibliomaniac to exercise setting and accomplishing goals. A fatal case of book madness. Biblion is Greek for e-book, and mania, way madness, so bibliomania interprets to e-book madness. The first use of this word is determined in a diary from 1734 written by using e-book collector Thomas Hearne. He wrote, "I need to had been tempted to have laid out a quite deal of cash without thinking myself at all touched with bibliomania. Back then, it turned into a disorder deemed to be a mild form of insanity." In 1750, there has been another point out of bibliomania in a letter by means of Lord Chesterfield to his son that bleakly reads, "Beware of the bibliomany." Finally, in 1809, a e-book became published through Thomas Dibdin titled Bibliomania, or Book Madness. Dibdin wrote the e-book in a satirical vein, approximately being stricken with this odd neurosis. Still, it changed into the primary time bibliomania had been tested as, although it had been a clinical condition. He called it the book disease. Book curses. Ashurbanipal was many things: spymaster, king slayer, lion killer, and king of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. Ashurbanipal called himself the king of the world, and possibly he clearly turned into It's no question that his empire became certainly the most important in the world. He was additionally a librarian in his unfastened time and the earliest acknowledged bibliomaniac. Reading and writing become an unusual potential for kings within the 7th century BC, but Ashurbanipal became an avid scholar when he wasn't destroying his enemies, that is. He created the primary systematically catalogued library in the world. He wanted every single book, rather, clay tablet, that he observed to be delivered to his Titanic library series. He changed into so obsessed that books were his preferred spoils of war. Ashurbanipal became capable of collect loads of heaps of those tablets, but he became very protective of them. He could even write e-book curses to ignite fear within the hearts of viable e-book thieves, such as, "Whosoever shall convey off this tablet, or shall inscribe his call on it, aspect by means of facet with mine own, may additionally Ashur and Balit overthrow him in wrath and anger, and might they break his call and posterity inside the land." King Ashurbanipal. For some 2,000 years after the destruction of his empire, Ashurbanipal's library lay buried below the rubble of his palace. In 1849, it was discovered, and inside the treasure trove of words became the oldest paintings of literature in the world, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Different types of collectors. Bibliomania involves a wide style of collectors. According to an article through Dr. Russell Belk within the Journal of Social Behavior and Personality, there's the taxonomic collector, who longs to own every single form of a published item, and there's the cultured collector, whose awareness is gathering any and all books that carry pleasure. Some forms of creditors are fetishistic, which Dr. Belk describes as the act of bringing collectively books in a way that the collector feels is making the book sacred. In the Equal Journal, Ruth Formanek described 5 of the key motivations that inspire creditors. The first is absolutely to extend the self by the very act of acquiring knowledge. The second reason is of social import, with the purpose in mind to hopefully discover others to relate to and percentage the material with. Other collectors are stimulated to preserve history and belong to the full-size continuity of time. Of course, a few view collecting as a way to make money, however for the bibliomaniac, it seems that the primary motivation is clearly addiction. All incentives for amassing are tied to an ardor for the items being searched for. Caused by trauma. Bibliomaniacs frequently grow to be addicted to e-book collecting whilst they're very younger as a way of dealing with a tough hardship. Some psychiatrists give an explanation for that bibliomania can be a protection mechanism for handling a critical trauma or repeated abuse, specifically. Such trauma causes patients to be pretty skeptical approximately any underlying issues. They will mask their pain via piling books up all around them because they don't need their traumatic beyond to be revealed. Addiction is a very common way to address pain. When the obsession is left unchecked for the duration of early life and into adulthood, it will begin to turn out to be a larger problem. The Extraordinary Librarian. In 1869, Dr. Alois Pichler changed into given the esteemed role of first-rate librarian on the Imperial Public Library in St. Petersburg, Russia. Unfortunately, Pichler's affinity for books went beyond merely looking after them. Pichler's first couple days of employment handed by uneventfully, but after a few months, there appeared to be a weird book thief within the library's midst. A stunning quantity of books have been stolen from the library's collection, and the guards suspected Pichler. He could often drop books on the exit after which rushed to return them to the shelves. He also wore a big overcoat that he in no way appeared to take off. After years of employment, 4,500 library books had been missing. It changed into the grandest case of library robbery ever recorded. There became no rhyme or reason to the topics, either. They ranged from texts about fragrance to writings on religion. Finally, Pichler was formally accused and brought to trial. Pichler's attorney claimed that he became not answerable for his robbery because his behavior became past his control. The legal professional called it an abnormal mental condition, a mania not in the prison or scientific sense, however within the regular feel of a violent, irresistible, unconquerable passion. It is actual that a common symptom of bibliomania is bibliokleptomania, the overwhelming impulse to thieve books for one series. Unfortunately, claiming that Pichler became a victim of bibliomania didn't sway the punishment in his favor. He was exiled to Siberia.